Guys, we're back in Needham today with another episode of Site Visit, and this week's special one, Steve and his team actually flew in from Utah to Boston to do a site walk with us as well as the homeowner, and we're going to catch up with Steve and talk about some of the details that are coming to life here as we near the completion of framing. Steve, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Appreciate you coming in. So we just did a full site walk with the homeowner as well as your whole team. I didn't know you were flying with your whole team. How many people came out?
All 6 of us, 7 of us.
All right. I didn't know you could get a rental car that big.
Yeah.
But you got the Expedition.
We got it. We got the big car.
We did a full site walk and it was super helpful for, I know, my team to like really nail down some of the questions that we had. And when we started the talk, everyone kind of was like, oh, we don't really have any questions. But as we walked the site, we realized there was these little minor things that everyone's been thinking about in the back of their head. And I want to walk the job with you and with everyone watching. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, talk to me about, like, you haven't been here since we've demoed.
Yeah.
We're almost near the end of framing. Mm-hmm. Take us back to some of the early design and like some of the inspiration you drew from and compare it to what you're seeing now.
So, yeah, totally. The homeowners were really drawn to just that European cottage look. So Tudor made sense. A lot of the homes, they took me around to some of the homes in the area that had that look, mm-hmm. and a lot of the images that they used. And so knowing that we're in New England, mm-hmm. and we're not in Europe, we wanted to combine the two, because the husband liked a lot of the colonial architecture that's all over in this town.
Wasn't his favorite house the one from Home Alone?
Yes.
Yeah.
He loves the McAllister house.
Yes.
His parents live in a really old colonial that they've remodeled. And then she really wanted something that was more romantic, more European. So the style of this home really incorporates some formality that you get with colonial, the symmetry, but then you get a lot of the sweeping lines and the steeper gables that you're going to see as more of a hallmark of a Tudor style home.
Sure.
So,
and with the sweep, like, because that's been a big focus with a lot of our video, a lot of our conversation is the sweeping roofs. How did you determine where you were kind of adding that into the design? And I mean, as far as like putting it on the front, the back, the side, everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's just a challenge with the larger home that we're doing here. We want the steep roofs. And so to get that, we've got to come out and meet the width and the depth of the home. So it allows us to use the curves to sort of bridge some of the deeper masses that we're trying to cover.
Got it.
So, and then here it's more of an aesthetic component that allows these to sort of soften out as it comes out to the sides. So it really just takes a lot of the square angles and creates some curve and some softness to it.
Sure. What about, so after walking through the site with us, like, what are some of the things that you've noticed or that you've been excited about kind of seeing come to life here?
Yeah, we've been sitting in the 3D model inside and out of this home. So first of all, it's really neat to come out and see the scale of the space and kind of validation that this room, the feeling that you were hoping to achieve, the light coming through the windows is all happening and resonating. So really fun to see that. And then just able to walk through your team and get more specific and drill down on trim work and specificity to ceilings and beams, and making sure our header heights are in the right location. The biggest driver on this project was light. And New England, you can speak to this, but I think the winters here can get dark. Mm-hmm. I know the homeowner really wanted to bring the light into her house, and this is south facing. Mm-hmm. And so these windows capture the light as it moves through the day and gets into the afternoon, evening time, to pour all of the sunlight into the house in the afternoon. They have light coming in on the front, and then in the afternoon, the light coming in through all of these windows in the back, in the kitchen. So it was really a component of that. They wanted this to really open up, to be tall, to feel spacious, and to bring a lot of light in. We did a sun study to see what the sun would be in all months of the seasons, to make sure that we're trying to capture as much of the sunlight as we can to be in here. And case in point, when we walked through with the client, she immediately stood in the sun when she came into this room.
Yeah.
I noticed that was a kind of fulfillment of what we were trying to achieve here.
Cool.
So that was cool.
We've been talking about kind of these cased openings, these plastered openings, these archways that going through. That's something that was kind of up in the air as far as like finalizing. And I think standing in the space, we were able to almost get through all of those questions.
Yeah. I mean, our design intent was to bring that Tudor style into the home with some, leaning into some of the New England tradition with woodwork. And, for me, it's striking the right balance. It's a blend of styles. So there was some of the design where we were doing a lot more woodwork and some that were peeling it back, and it was more plaster and beams. And so I think it was helpful to walk through and establish the right balance and where we're going to have woodwork and where we're going to have more just plaster and keep it simple. So it was kind of nice to be able to go through with the client, with you guys, and identify, how we can get specific with all of that.
Dining room is actually an example of that.
Yep.
What did we determine here in this dining room? Because you have this opening and then this awesome all glass room that eventually we'll go to a patio out here, has the sun pulling in. But what did we determine that it was going to be our direction here?
So we know we're doing casings. We like this casing. It's got a great feel, a lot of detail. They're really good at doing that. Very classic. We're going to be putting these around the windows, and we're going to run this flat and have a bead, and then this will wrap the perimeter to kind of frame this opening as one combined unit, which is going to be gorgeous. You've got great views of these trees, really just opened up in the backyard, and then in order to keep our beams, we wanted to bring this down far enough or at least the beams are shallow enough that we can have a little bit of space in between.
Yeah,
so we talked about that. We talked about bringing that header down in order to capture those beams and have some good closure there.
Well, I actually wasn't aware that you were going to go all the way around with the casing, but yeah. I think that's an important thing to call attention to as you did, because what that does is it takes the 5 windows from 5 windows to
a window element, window unit
of 5 that are essentially like mulled together and bridged there. And because oftentimes you see it, I think it looks like a mistake where you have casing, 2 inches of plaster and then casing. It's really just messy, and it's just messy looking, really. Yeah,
it can get busy, and I guess with a higher detailed home, that might be the right look. Mm-hmm. But with this home, trying to not make it feel overly ornate. Mm-hmm. We want to try to simplify, but still have some of those touches of detail to give it a traditional feel.
What other spaces in the home have were you excited to see, or even details of the home?
I love like all the like the window pop outs that we have, like the little kitchen nook here.
Kitchen, big island. We have our range over here, and this is what is considered the breakfast nook?
Yep. So it's sort of a wraparound booth. And I mean, really, this is where life happens, right? Breakfast, pancakes, you're cooking, you're eating in the space, you're at the front of the house, so people coming here, you're really visible to that. And it's sort of like kind of the life happening space that's going on, morning times, evening times. So obviously the dining room over there, more formal eating, more intentional.
Right.
But as you know, quick meals are going to happen here, and they're going to have a big island, so a lot of seating over here, and as well as here. So, and options.
Kitchen and mudroom is something we talked about color today.
Yeah.
Which is cool. The direction that they're headed is like a dark green.
Yeah.
What was the not the mudroom? I'm sorry. The pantry.
Pantry.
The pantry was a.
Yeah, that was going to be matching the cabinets in here, which we oscillated between a sort of a smoky blue color to kind of a pewter, kind of dark green.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we landed.
Cool.
So we'll see that in the pantry.
Yeah. Speaking of colors, we also talked about the outside. So why don't we head outside? See, we had our mason come yesterday and do this mock-up. So I don't know if we told you, but the brick was actually reclaimed from the old Concord train station in New Hampshire, who's Stone Sorcerer on Instagram. I reached out to him and asked if he had a reclaimed brick, and he had told us about this. So there's pallets of it. But we did this mock-up for you guys because we knew you were coming. But walk us through some of the details that you were thinking about kind of changing on the overall design, and what's going to be important as far as the detailing for you.
For sure. With here, what I wanted to do was add a soldier course to the bottom, even a double step, but just a soldier course to just add a little bit of like a footer detail to the brick. I like the way that here there's not a lot of brick, but in the front there's a lot more brick, so that kind of breaks up a lot of the mass of brick and just adds some of those hallmarks, touches, something you'd see in an older Tudor style home.
If you've ever been to a home that a mason lived in,
oh yeah, you get spiral columns.
Yeah, it's just everything is like it gets funky. But for those that are watching, a soldier course, as Steve kind of has here, they are stood vertically in comparison to what is laid horizontally, and I believe it gets the name from like the fact that soldiers stand in a line. But adding that is essentially what you're looking to essentially ground this and give it a kind of a termination point.
Yep.
But one of the things that you talked about was also bumping it potentially out a little bit at the base. What's the idea behind that?
I mean, kind of the same thing. Like it sort of gives it some strength, like it's sitting on a footer. It's coming out a little bit, so it just adds a structural element to it.
Giving it that like almost column base feeling.
Like a column base, exactly.
Sure. Yep. And then windows around, windowsill and above the header. What's that detail going to look like?
Yeah, we talked about doing a pitch seal, typical with doing brick, and then same kind of thing, a soldier course running on top of your windows for a lintel.
Got it.
And that just changes the direction and again just adds a little bit of texture. Plus, I think we talked about doing a jack arch, which would have been your original way to do a lintel, but the soldier course is a little bit of a watered down version of that.
Sure.
That might not be historic, but I think it's right for the context of this home.
Right, where you're blending that kind of New England and newer style home.
Totally.
What you have in your hand is actually our finalized shingle color. We have a shingle siding on the majority of this home, dark leather.
Dark leather.
I knew you'd know.
Does that look like dark leather?
I think so.
Great. That's perfect.
Because there's one with a label over there that should say it.
Yeah, it's somewhere.
So this is our blend. We have a bronze window from Geldwin on the front that you guys have walked through, and then finally, we actually have two other products. We have our trim and our nickelback.
Yeah, nickelback.
We have our nickelback siding, which is going to be a color from Ben Moore, which was Mothwing.
That was one. Mothwing, Tavern Taupe. So we've got some options that we're looking at. We want to create an offset of color, and we also want it to blend with the dark bronze windows. So it's the designer, Cassie, interior designer, has some suggestions as well on that. So we want to kind of create a little bit of variation color. This is going to be a similar, not similar, but maybe in tone, just with the shingle here, Da Vinci, and this. And so the bronze and taupe casings will add a little bit of variation with those, so it's not too monochromatic.
And being like the consideration of monochromatic, and that was a worry, kind of amongst the conversation today. But what we realize is, as we're looking at this, all of the different textures on the home, that's going to really lend itself to be intentionally monochromatic in a way.
Yeah, I mean the client was really driven, to the good catch, dark Tudor.
Good job, Steve.
Yeah. The darker Tudor home, has a more of like a moody and kind of a warm cottage feel, and I know she really liked that. So, really, that's where we're headed here. But she didn't want it to feel just one note, one color. So, adding in the taupe windows, or the dark bronze windows, a little bit more of a taupe siding, there's going to create some offset, a little bit more variation. I think that'll be nice.
Yeah. And the final piece of it is the Da Vinci slate, as you mentioned. We're using a slate gray. And for what it's worth, just to, kind of talk about the product itself, we ended up going with the multi-width So you have all different widths in shingle, and one of the reasons that we did that is we wanted this really natural look. That was something that we talked about early on, is this natural looking roof, and having the different widths helps kind of give that detail, but also gives us the really authentic edge detail that we were looking for. So as you go up the side of the roof, it does look like true slate. So that will be something that we're going to be rolling into shortly after we finish framing here. So Steve, when's the next time that you're going to be out here in Boston?
Totally. Drywall. I mean, when getting ready.
Drywall in Massachusetts.
No drywall, gyp board. What do we call it?
Glue board and plaster.
Okay, I got to get used to these terms.
So Steve also asked us if we always strap our ceilings, which Lindsay actually was like, Steve, they did a video on it, so we know you don't watch the videos.
That's not true.
Which is
That's
fine.
not true.
Some of the videos.
There's so many. I've got to catch up.
But Steve, before we sign off here, being that you're in Utah, we're building this home outside of Boston. What has been the biggest struggle between that distance, and how have we collectively made, or maybe not have made it work?
Oh, totally. Well, for me, our projects, they're really successful when we can be on site and just help out, be part of the team to facilitate, materials, application, even just design changes or the nuances of building and having things shift a little bit, and just being able to participate in helping make those changes and make good decisions. So coming on site is really helpful. I think we're able to have some good discussions here. I think you guys have been stellar at keeping us informed of the build process. We have our Zoom calls every other week, and so we've felt pretty well connected to what's going on, with the project being long distance. So I don't feel like it's been too big of an issue.
Same. I would agree with that, and I think that technology has obviously given us the opportunity to kind of expand into architects that might be in Utah or different parts of the country, and Steve being able to work with us, and ultimately it comes down to good communication skills on both ends. And so appreciate that of you guys, and appreciate you coming out, and we'll see you guys at Blue Board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks.